Assalamualaikum and a very good day. We are from Group 3 of BKM 2013 Management Accounting 1 Group L. In this video, we are going to present a journal article entitled Why Activity-Based Costing is Still Lagging Behind the Traditional Costing in Malaysia. This journal was written by Devanaga Raisa from Multimedia University MMU Malacca, and it was published in the year of 2011. I am Muhammad Fitri, and I will explain the first few parts of the journal, which are abstract, introduction, background research, and objective of the study. The abstract of this journal provides an overview of the topic and the purpose of the study. This study compares activity-based costing and traditional costing method in Malaysia. Activity-based costing can be considered as an alternative model to traditional cost-based accounting system. This is because it calculates the cost and performance of activities, resources, and cost objects. In this study, the results indicate that most operation managers believe that their present cost system were adequate for decision making. In certain situations, operation managers evaluated their cost system as more effective than those using other cost systems. Activity-based costing systems were evaluated as somewhat more useful, but there's no relevant literature was found to indicate that either the external or internal environment of the firm was correlated with the choice of cost system. Moving into the introduction part, the author provides a brief explanation regarding costing system and how activity-based costing differs from traditional-based costing. Generally, costing systems are information systems. This is because it requires a specific type of information such as direct labor hours and unit produced to be of value. The product cost and other information are determined from the input data according to specific costing system. Although the same input data could be used, the result obtained would depend on the costing system. For example, the product cost under activity-based costing may differ from the traditional costing, although the input data used, such as machine hours, is the same. In brief, activity-based costing and traditional costing symbolizes two competing product costing methods. Traditional costing approach is where only the unit level drivers assigned to product cost, while activity-based costing varies from traditional costing. For instance, activity-based costing utilizes more cost pool and more cost driver. Carsten, 2002, also pointed out that the approach of activity-based costing is trying to allocate overhead costs to cost objects more precise than traditional costing. Here, we can see that activity-based costing approach is more precise and accurate compared to the traditional costing approach. According to Shannon and John, 2007, activity-based costing differed from traditional costing based on the number of cost pool and the number and type of cost drivers. The activity cost pool was the total cost correlated with an activity. In the meantime, a cost driver was an aspect that was direct influence on the cost and performance of the activities. The cost drivers presented the ultimate explanation on why costs in an activity cost pool altered over the time. In short, the introduction part discussed an overview on how activity-based costing differs from the traditional costing method. Background research explained about the history and development of activity-based costing. According to Peter B. Bettany, 1998, and Jan M. Blumsbeck, 2008, activity-based costing was developed in the mid-1980s due to the increasing of lower significance of traditional cost accounting method. Activity-based costing method was first initiated in an organization which was called John Deere Company in the United States. On the other hand, Jan M. Blumsberg, 2008, also stated that the traditional cost accounting method was originated around 1870 to 1920, and in those days, industry were labor intensive because there was no automation. The development and endorsement of activity-based costing have been stimulated and largely persuaded by the work of Robin Koppel and Robert S. Kaplan, 1987, especially in the manufacturing sector. This technique was later explained in 1999 by Peter F. Drucker in his book entitled The Management Challenges of the 21st Century. Work carried out by Kincott, 1991, John and Michelle, 1995, and David and Robert, 1995, highlighted the benefit and advantages of activity-based costing, which also the new cost system targeting cost reduction, performance measurement, and different cost objects. Besides that, Kincott, 1991, Evan and Ashworth, 1995, also found the disadvantages or limitation of the new cost system, such as activity-based costing can be expensive to implement and to maintain in both time and money. In summary, the background research discussed about history and development of activity-based costing. Activity-based costing was developed in the mid-1980s and was first initiated in John Deere Company, United States. On the other hand, the traditional cost accounting method, which was originated around 1870 to 1920, focuses on labor-intensive industry since there was no automation in those days. The overhead costs under traditional costing method become insignificant in the new globalization age because the industry are no longer labor intensive after the invention of machines to replace the labor force. The scholars such as Robbie Copper and Robert S. Kaplan play an important role in development and endorsement of activity-based costing. Today, the activity-based costing approach not only focuses on manufacturing company, but it has widely spread to non-manufacturing functions such as marketing and research and development. There are two objectives of this study. Firstly, the study is to compare the activity-based costing with the traditional costing. And the second objective is to find out why activity-based costing is still lagging behind the traditional based costing in Malaysia. These objectives will be discussed in the following parts of this journal, which will be explained by my friend. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and a very good day. I'm Zulhusni bin Shokri, and now I will present my part, which is problem statement. In this journal, the author stated that in Malaysia, many companies are still using the traditional costing or using some other methods of costing. This section summarizes the problem that many companies in Malaysia are still using traditional costing method or other methods of costing rather than using activity-based costing. Now, I would like to explain about the literature review section. Larry mentioned that in order to comprehend the potential power of activity-based costing, cost data in pricing, it is important to comprehend how at ABC cost data is different in contrast to the traditional method. The attribute of activity-based costing is that it does not vary with volume, however it may differ with some other measure of activity. ABC recognizes the activities that drive the cost. According to a study conducted by Cooper, the first group of activities, unit level activities, refers to activities that must be carried out for each unit of a product manufactured. The second group of activity is batch level activities. Batch level activities refer to other activities that are performed for each batch of units. The cost of batch activities vary with the number of batches and not the number of units manufactured because batches can contain different number of units. The third group of activity is product level activities. Once product level activities are performed, it will benefit all units of a particular product. Costs incurred to carry out the groups of activities mentioned before this all vary in response to changes in some measure of the activity called a cost driver. This means cost of the three group activities can all be changed by changing the amount of activities cost driver. Under ABC, there is no change in the short run because these costs are correlated with supplying the capacity essential to carry out the manufacturing operations, marketing operations, or administrations. They consist of facility level costs such as depreciation, property taxes, and insurance on the facilities. Facility level costs are like fixed costs under the traditional cost performance cataloging and will be controlled in the same way. Conversely, the quantity of facility level costs are smaller since they correspond to only that fraction of the traditional fixed cost that does not vary with batch or product level activities. Now, I would like to explain about steps to implement activity-based costing and traditional costing. Let us start with ABC first. To implement ABC, we must first identify and classify activities. Second, we need to estimate costs for the whole activity. Third, we need to compute a cost driver rate. And lastly, we need to apply activity costs using cost drivers. Next, let's see what are the steps to implement traditional costing method. It involves 6 steps. Firstly, we need to identify the indirect costs involved. Secondly, we need to estimate the indirect costs involved. Thirdly, we need to choose the cost drivers. Next, we need to estimate the value for the cost driver. Then, we will compute the overhead rate. And lastly, we need to apply the overhead rate. Now, I would like to explain why ABC method is better to implement rather than using traditional costing method. Let us start with cost drivers. Ariffin claimed that ABC allowed managers to get rid of costs related to non-value added activities and develop the efficiencies of present development since ABC offered better visibility into business development and their cost drivers. When information visibility improved, it also enabled the consumption of quality-related initiatives by classifying activities that were related with poor product quality and their cost drivers. Apart from that, another advantage of this system is performance measurement. Cost drivers provided volume determined on a different kind of operational performance which reflected the effectiveness and accuracy of the activity concerned. So, they help in assessing the efficiency with which activities were carried out when it was linked to the cost. Next, the direct and indirect costs involved between ABC and traditional costing method. Traditional costing systems were used on the basis like direct labor and machine hours to allocate expenses to products and services. The expenses of indirect and keep-up resources are segregated by activities under ABC method, and then those expenses were allocated based on the drivers of these activities. Then, different cost objective is one of the advantages of ABC. John and Michelle highlighted that the ABC methodology can be applied to cost objects except for the product. Indirectly, this allowed customer profitability to be analyzed and so provided management with a market-oriented view of how proceeds have been earned. Not only that, ABC has helped to capture the economics of production development more closely and provided more accurate costing data rather than traditional cost-based method. Next, ABC also identified work activities and its costs. By classifying the work activities and its costs in relation to each of their cost drivers, ABC helped to fill in the gaps of the traditional costing method. ABC can even make a distinction between the cost of serving the different segment of customers. It means that assigning the cost wouldn't pose much of a problem since we identify each activities and cost drivers thoroughly. Next, the disparity between traditional costing performance and ABC is that traditional cost divides costs into variables and fixed categories, while ABC divides the cost into those that vary with unit level activities, batch level activities, and facility level costs. Most small and medium-sized companies use the traditional costing system mainly because they are inexpensive to manage, making widespread use of arbitrary cost allocations, and comprising of low-level accuracy, high cost of errors, and so on. On the other hand, Drury indicated that although ABC systems are more expensive to operate, It creates far-reaching use of cost and affected cost allocations with high level of precision, low cost of errors, and so on. To summarize the literature review section, the section highlighted on how ABC is different and quite contrast to traditional costing method. A fundamental difference between traditional costing and ABC is that ABC methods expand the number of indirect cost pools that can be allocated to specific products. The traditional method, however, takes one pool of a company's total overhead cost to allocate universally to all products. ABC contains 4 groups of activities, which are unit level activities, batch level activities, product level activities, and facility level costs. In contrast, traditional costing uses allocation bases such as direct labor hour and machine hour. This section also highlighted on steps to implement ABC and traditional costing, and also explained why ABC is better than traditional costing method.
Assalamualaikum. I am Akmal Muhaimin bin Ariffin, and now I will present my part, which is advantage and disadvantage of activity-based costing and traditional method. Advantage of activity-based costing. The first one, more accurate cost estimation method. ABC costing help the manager to become aware of original parameters that create demand on indirect and keep up resource which can identify and remove non-value editing activity. The second one is more accurate productive costing system. It recognizes that is an activity which cost, not product, and it is a product which consume activities. In advanced manufacturing environment and technology, which support function overhead constitute a large share of total cost. ABC costing provide more realistic product cost. The third one is better decision making. ABC costing improve greatly the manager decision making as they can use more reliable product cost data. ABC help usefully in fixing selling price of product as the more correct data of product cost is now readily available. Advantage of traditional based costing. The first one is traditional system were found to be cheap to be used. There are no fancy calculation or form required to determine the average overhead rate under the traditional costing system. Calculate the amount of time it takes to produce a specific product or provide a unique service. Then take the average rate of labor or machine used per hour, multiplying it by the length of the time necessary to create similar good and service. The second one is report, which are easier to understand. The report generated by this calculation are often easy to read and understand because it put everything into a ringgit and cent categories. The traditional costing system made it possible to understand some of the basics of the company financial picture. Disadvantage of activity costing system. Increase the frequency of error in product cost. Due to increase in the number of cost group and the increase in cost specification cause many errors to be identified using activity costing. Expensive and complex. ABC has numerous cost drivers and multiple cost drivers and therefore can be more complex than traditional product costing system. It can prove costly manage ABC system. Disadvantage traditional costing system. The first one is using a single overhead pool. The traditional system would not look at marketing, sale, and outreach costs because those occur after the manufacturing process. If those costs are high, then the system may indicate profitability for a company when none exists. The second one is limited accuracy. It does not offer the same accuracy trying to look at the actual expense that are incurred by the organization. It tends to discount the actual expense, looking at the profitability of product or service by accurately assigning costs for all activity instead of considering the cost of each action required to bring the product to sale.
Assalamualaikum and very good day. I'm Muhaimin bin Abdul Ghaffar, and now I will present my part, which is disadvantages of activity-based costing and traditional costing and other costing methods. Even an Ashworth 1995 claimed that although more overhead costs can be allocated straight to products via activity-based costings, multiple activity cost pools, but some overhead costs remain to be dispensed with the help of some arbitrary volume-based cost drivers like machine or labor hours. The first disadvantages of activity-based costing, or known as ABC, is that it increases the frequency of errors in product cost management through increasing a number of cost pools and improvement in specification of cost bases, as stated by Datar and Gupta in 1994. There's also another disadvantages mentioned by Noor in 1991, is that ABC implementation provided beneficial results only under specific conditions. Another study conducted by McGowan and Clayman in 1997 suggested that many activity-based costing adopters had abandoned their implementation, and this raised concern on the potential impact of activity-based costing on performance. Apart from that, traditional costing also has its own disadvantages. First of it is it do not present non-financial information about small and medium enterprises, also known as SME. The traditional costing systems provided trivial information regarding the factors that were significant to the customers, like quality and services. A traditional based costing system typically uses a single overhead pool, that is a single collection of costs that are not directly calculated as product part costs or as labor. This would comprise of supply and maintenance expenses, allotment of management salaries, depreciation, and many more. Furthermore, traditional costing system shows that only financial information, while non-financial information like defect rates and throughput rates in each activity was beyond the capacity of traditional costing system. At first, managers viewed activity-based costing approach as a more accurate way of calculating product costs. According to Dickinson and Lear, 2003, one of the most significant weaknesses of the traditional costing method is that the cost of a sales representative engaging in non-standard selling activities is frequently excluded from his or her performance review. This is a predicament because most people would be persuaded to maximize whatever standard that were established as a performance standard. If activity-based costing and traditional costing seems a bit difficult and hard to determine whether the costing system is suitable or not, there are other costing methods that are available, such as just-in-time processing, job order costing, and process costing. Most of these costing systems were intended to allocate costs to products. Just-in-time is a processing system devoted to having the right quantity of materials, parts, or products appear as they are needed in order to reduce the amount of inventory, as stated by Muhammad 2003. The main benefit of JST is to reduce setup time. Hirohano, Hiroyuki, and Makoto Furuya 2006 claim that cutting setup time allowed the organization to reduce or eliminate inventory for changeover time. Overall, just-in-time is an inventory strategy that tries to improve a business's return on investment by reducing in-process inventory and associated carrying costs. Job order costing or job costing is a system for assigning and accumulating manufacturing costs of an individual unit of output. The job order costing system is used when the various products are sufficiently different from each other and each has a significant cost. Since there is a significant variation in these items manufactured, the job order costing system requires a separate job cost record for each item. Different from job order costing, process costing is a method for collecting, assigning manufacturing costs to the units produced. A processing cost system is used when nearly identical units are mass-produced, such as manufacturing large quantities of an identical product.
Assalamualaikum and a very good day. My name is Ady Aziman Bin Afendi, and today I'm going to present my part, which consists of potential pitfalls of the activity-based costing, the limitation of the literature review, as well as the conclusion of the literature review. So let's start. The first point of my part is the potential pitfall of the ABC. So, the literature review or the journal listed about 7 points of the potential pitfall. However, I'm going to only take 5 points and briefly explain 3 points out of all the points given on the literature review. So, let's take the first point. The first point of the potential pitfalls of activity-based costing is spending too much time, effort, and even money on gathering and going over the data. So, as we all know, that if a company wants to implement the ABC on the system, they must first identify and classify activities. Second, they need to estimate the costs for the whole activity. Next, they need to compute the cost driver rate, and finally, they need to apply activity costs using cost drivers. So, the 4 points that I just mentioned requires a lot of time, effort, as well as money, which leads to being the pitfall or the risk that a company should take, because they need all of the resources just to implement the activity-based costing system. My second point for the potential fall of the ABC is that managers sometimes tends to overlook some activity and the cost associated. This is a risk that a company should take, as well as a potential pitfall, because as we all know, that ABC requires that each activity to be classified and identified. So, if a manager decides to overlook some activities, then it defeats the purpose of the ABC itself. So that's a risk that a company should take. Next is the activity-based costing software can be pricey. Okay, I have looked at the number one most used activity-based costing, and the number one is Oracle e-business suite. Okay, the professional license for this software costs $3,999, and that is for 1 year plan. There's also other plan like the business plan, the basic plan, but if a company wants to use ABC, they need the professional license, and with that price, that is a risk that a company have to take for them to implement the ABC. The other 2 points that I would not briefly explain is exceptionally too many details involved in ABC, and lack of details record can lead to insufficient data. My next point on my part is the limitation. This study has a limitation. Although it has takes the work of previous research on this area, we must acknowledge that the empirical research on the subject in Malaysia environment is limited. This review should be viewed as an initial step towards that purpose. As more data will be available, prospective researchers should pursue on issues presented in this review so that the latest advance of activity-based costing in Malaysia is properly documented. My last point on my part is the conclusion. Malia said that companies doing business in Malaysia found similar widespread dissemination and persistence of traditional costing. Activity-based costing had been implemented as an substitute to traditional costing from Andred, Vilho, Maya, and Kasim. This shows that most organizations use activity-based costing method as the contemporary costing systems. Why companies continue to use other types of cost systems? One reason is that there are disparity in the nature and scope of information created by each system. So, from the literature reviewed, it can be concluded that bigger companies use activity-based costing based on Turney, 1998, and Emblemsbach, 2008. It can also be concluded that although many companies had converted to the activity-based costing system, there were still some companies that remained to use the same traditional costing system that was developed decades ago in this new globalization age. It is important for the organizations in Malaysia to know clearly what they require prior to deciding on which costing method to use. Organizations need to study the pros and cons of each costing method to know which one was more appropriate for their organizations. To close this conclusion, I would like to end it with a sentence which is, there is no such thing as the best costing method. There is only the most suitable costing method to use. That's all from me. Thank you.